I had all that great. I said like 15 minutes worth of stuff. And because of the stupid mute button, I need a producer. Anyway, happy Juneteenth to all y'all. This is RickCast, episode 132. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday. I don't know. For some reason, it feels like a Friday to me. There's no reason for it. But I do. I feel like it should be, but it is not. So I hope everybody's having a good one. And we got a good show for you. We have a great show for you because we are going to start off the show talking about Trump giving 2 weeks for Iran to get its act together, which is fantastic because, it needed to happen that way. And then we're going to talk about Ben Shapiro meeting the Pope and how everybody's freaking out about that and how everybody just needs to kind of shut up. Dodgers are blocking ICE agents from enforcing federal law at Dodger games, proving once again they are gay. And a man falls in love with an AI girlfriend, proposes to her, and then she breaks up with him. Essentially, that's it. And that is going to be the show tonight. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, I'm going to be dropping the interview I did with Owen Schroyer of InfoWars. He was gracious enough last night. We spent about 30 minutes talking. Stupid StreamYard. I'll say it again. Stupid StreamYard. I'm actually looking. There's this there's this platform called RickCast. And I think next week we're going to go to Restream. We're going to go to Restream because I've seen it on other shows as well. They're struggling. Something is wrong with StreamYard right now. StreamYard keeps bumping my camera. It keeps defaulting me to that camera, to that microphone. And I did the entire stinking interview with Owen on that stupid microphone. So my sound quality sounds like doo-doo. When I have this perfectly good space, the Death Star over here to help me with my audio. But no, because of stupid StreamYard, it doesn't sound as good as it should. But Owen was fantastic, and you're only here to listen to him anyway. So that interview will drop at 7 p.m. tonight and then be available for full viewing tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll drop it on the channel at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So for everybody's viewing pleasure. So we're going to have a good show tonight. And then, of course, what time does Steve want us to do this thing? I think it's at 7:30. So that's I've kind of laid it out perfectly for y'all. It's going to be 6 to 7 tonight. With me, and then I think 7:30. Steve didn't put the time in. Usually it's 7:30, but I think it's gonna be 7:30. 7:30. He's gonna have his show, our show, and so from 7 to 7:30, you'll be able to watch the interview with Owen that I am doing. So it's laid out perfectly, ladies and gentlemen. Second housekeeping point I need to let people know about. While they're filtering in, while the bar are filtering in, tomorrow's show will be recorded. This was a last minute thing. This is, I got a call from my LTC lead instructor at the gun range that I work at. He is not feeling good. So he asked me to take over an OPE, an official partner event. We work with USCCA, and USCCA does official partner events, and we do one every Friday at the range that I work at, Sendero Shooting Sports, up in Belton. So if you're in the Central Texas area, I teach at the Belton, at Sendero Shooting Sports in Belton. So he asked me at 11 o'clock this morning, hey man, I'm feeling real tough. I can't do the official partner event tomorrow. Can you cover for me? And of course, I'm always going to say yes if my lead instructor asks. So I will record the show. Of course, there's a string of things that happen now because of that. I was planning on seeing 28 Days Later tomorrow morning and getting a review for that. That is now pushed to Monday. I will do a review for that on Monday. But I will record a show from 3 to 4 tomorrow and then upload it for 6 p.m. tomorrow night. So if you are looking for a show, will not be live. It will be recorded, but there will be episode 133 will be available tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern here on the channel. It just will not be live. It will be recorded a couple hours earlier. I can't swing it. And if I love you guys, I absolutely do. But I love the firearms industry more, and I love being involved in the firearms industry, and I love education and teaching and just being around if I could find a full-time job in the firearms industry, I would take it. I would take it and then do this kind of stuff more on the side. Um, Not that I don't love you guys. It's just if I had a choice between firearms and this stuff, I would do that. I would absolutely, if I could find a job full time, if I could find a full time job that paid me a salary to be an LTC instructor, I'd take it tomorrow. I absolutely would because I think it's amazing. Anyway, tomorrow's show will be recorded. I will be there. It will be up. I'll have the news of tomorrow and it'll be there. Plus, the interview with Owen will drop in the morning. So you'll have two things from RickCast tomorrow, both recorded, but I will at least have something for you tomorrow. I just, I can't say no to my lead instructor. He's been real good to me, and if he asks for a favor, I'm definitely gonna, pull in for him. I'm definitely gonna make sure I do that for him. So that's real quick housekeeping for that. And then on Monday, you will have a review for 28 years later. So it's kind of a domino effect, if you will. And one real quick thing before we get into it, if I seem like I'm a little off today, it's because I went to the dentist. Yeah, I actually went to the dentist today for the first time since I think like 2019. I know it's gross. I get it. I'm sorry. But yeah, I didn't go to the last time I went to the dentist was before 2020, before COVID. And then lockdowns in life and everything kind of just happened. So I went to the dentist today. My mouth hurts. My mouth, I was going in half expecting for my dentist to look in my mouth and just go, good God, what is this? But she was very nice. She was very, very sweet. She said my teeth actually were very healthy for the fact that I hadn't been to the dentist in 6 years. So they did all the flushing and cleaning and all that stuff. But I don't know about you, but I forgot how much my teeth can hurt. Because they do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, enough about that. Let's get into the show because we are on a limited time frame because I want to make sure I drop this video about Owen at 7 exactly. So we don't have any, I'm not going to do any openers or anything like that, simply because I don't want to waste y'all's time. We're not going to waste time with any of that kind of stuff. Actually, I do have one because it's a ridiculous story. So let's see. Screen share. StreamYard feels like old. It feels like an old book at this point. Anyway, here we go. The Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers were sold yesterday. This report came out yesterday afternoon that the Los Angeles Lakers were sold. They were bought for $67 million in 1979, which I don't know what it is adjusted for inflation. But it sold yesterday for $10 billion, which is absolutely insane. $10 billion for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Jason Whitlock went on today and said, this proves that woke is not, get woke, go broke is a lie and all these other kinds of things. And Steve Cunningham and other people had to say, well, it is the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are a brand. Their merchandise sales are great. They're like a top 5 known brand around the world. They're in Los Angeles, so they're going to be overvaluated anyway. So I tend to agree with Steve Cunningham and all those guys that, yeah, $10 billion is a lot for the Los Angeles Lakers, but that's, one of the few franchises that can actually afford that price tag just because of the brand recognition. As much as you hate the Cowboys could easily sell for $20 billion right now. Just because of the merchandise and the fact that it owns all of Texas outside of Houston. It also owns New Mexico, Oklahoma, Alabama, parts of Missouri. There are all these places that don't have NFL teams. The Cowboys pretty much own the Southwest. So, this idea that these brands can't sell for this amount of money, it's astronomical. I know Clay Travis is kind of a little bit of for lack of a better term, he's a prick. But he does have a good point when he said that sports teams are pretty much just art pieces that owners can buy. There's no appraised value on them. It's like, oh, I have a baseball team. How much did you buy it for? I bought it for $15 gajillion. It's cool. I have it. I have the money to buy it. You don't buy a sports team to make money. You make money to buy a sports team, right? Very few teams are run. I think like the Cleveland Browns are one of the few teams that are run for a business, and they're terrible. And everybody hates them because they're terrible. They don't have enough money to compete with billionaires that this is like their plaything. So, all right, let's get to our first story. So we've been talking about this all week, and I'll talk. I had a really good talk with Owen Schroyer, which will drop at 7 p.m. tonight, about MAGA, the Israeli-Iran conflict, the MAGA civil war, and him and I agreed that it was just crazy that Trump is being backed into a corner, and we're starting to see that kind of come back out. For yesterday, the narrative was shut up, Iran can't get a nuke, you're a loser if you don't support the United States taking military action against the Iranians. And a lot of people are like, listen, we can't let the Iranians dictate foreign policy. Not the Iranians, the Israelis. I'm sorry, we can't let the Israelis dictate our foreign policy. And if we do anything, Steve Crowder, who I have not been very much fond of this week, especially Gerald, his buddy, who apparently Gerald, super nice guy, terrible theologian. Please don't listen to any of these conservative theologians. They are terrible. But Crowder made the point, and I've been making the point all week, but Crowder made it very succinctly, which is why he's one of the best. Israel started this job knowing they couldn't finish it, knowing that they were going to need to ask these United States for their bunker busters, which is BS. They knew they couldn't finish this job, which is ridiculous why they would go in and start in the first place. So they did it knowing they couldn't finish the job. You and I talked about this. The bar rats, we knew that the Israelis couldn't finish the job, and their whole purpose was to suck these United States into a conflict. And Noah and I talked about that, and he agreed with me, and he made the point so much better than I could, which is why you're going to want to watch at 7 p.m. But both of us said we hope that Trump can thread this needle, which seemed to be shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. But it seems like Teflon Don seems to get away out of all of these things. So Trump has decided that the U.S. action in Israel and Iran, he's essentially punted it. So Sweet Caroline will tell us this. Caroline, whatever her name is, the White House press bunny, right? We can call her White House press bunny. This is what she had to say about that
situation in Iran. I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
Give Teflon Don credit. He's able to punt this sucker. He was in a no-win situation. He was backed into a corner, and he's punted the ball 2 weeks. He's pretty much told the Israelis, you're not getting anything for 2 weeks until I can get this thing really sorted out. You're not getting what you want. And that makes me happy. Not because I hate the Jews. I don't like the Israeli government, but I like the fact that the Israelis are not dictating foreign policy to us. That is the thing that I am very happy about in this sense. And maybe this does happen. Maybe the Ayatollah and maybe Iranian officials, I don't think the Ayatollah will come here, but maybe Iranian officials will come to the White House and maybe they can hammer out some kind of deal. Now, there's very interesting. I did watch Timcast last night when I was driving to my dentist this morning. And they had they had a Middle East official on there, and he talked about something very, very interesting about the Israeli position. The Israelis are trying to get Trump to move and do the bunker busters and get military action done before they run out of air defense missiles. All talk about the Iron Dome is kind of mute to the fact that they don't have infinite missiles. They don't have infinite missiles, and the Iranians are essentially using their middle middle tier missiles right now to kind of work out and deplete the Israeli missile defense, the magazines of the Israelis, because there's some intelligent officials that do not exist in the conservative punditry, like not Mark Levin or not any of these other people, that are saying, listen, say whatever you want about the Israelis. I'm sorry, say whatever you want about the Iranians. The Iranians have not used their quote unquote superstars yet. All right. There was a Turkey intelligence official who was brought into the show last night on Timcast, and he's nonpartisan, and this guy trusts him. He's like, so what's going on? He goes, well, they're using the mid-range stuff, and they haven't used their biggest weapons yet. They haven't used their superstars yet. So what they're doing is they're essentially trying to drain down the defense, the Iron Dome, because the Iron Dome does not have infinite missiles. They're trying to drain the Iron Dome, and that'll put them in a better position to negotiate with President Trump. So everybody's trying to do like a game of chicken at this point. And this is a win for the Iranians before anything else. If you think about this, I get it. Lou, I think it's 100% that's their missile problem because they started it. But unfortunately, since they're trying to drag us into this region, there's two things here. I agree with you 100%. That's been my position. I've been going to conflict with people all week. Trump promised the Iranians that he was going to try and make a deal with them. And two, if Trump doesn't make a deal, the situation's going to, and this is just the nature of things, it's going to run into more problems, i.e. the Israelis are going to get more and more and more aggressive to the point where things are going to get out of control. To quote I got to get that line from or that clip from Red October. It's going to just fall out of hand. I wish we could just tell the Israelis to pop off and go away. You started it. It's your problem. That's been my position from the beginning. But the Israelis, if they feel they're going to get desperate enough, they may go in and try to take out the Ayatollah. They may try to do regime change on their own if they feel desperate enough, if they run out of missiles and they just don't know anything. And then we're into the problem that we didn't want to get into in the first place, which is a destabilized Iran, power vacuums, CIA, Houthis, all these Hamas, all these people fighting for power, the Russians, the Turkish, everybody getting involved. Because if you think about it, I learned this last night as well. The northern part of Iran is more Turkish than anything else because it borders Turkey. So it's a huge problem. So Trump is punting the ball. Really, it's the Iranians that are going to come in and ask to be protected from the Israelis. It's a crazy situation where Trump is actually in a position to protect the Iranians from the Israelis, because the Israelis are unhinged at this point because Netanyahu is desperate. And Owen's going to break this down tonight in our interview of how Bibi Netanyahu is in a desperate position. And he's been essentially lying to Trump, and everybody else in the region has not been. And so Bibi is desperate to try just get the war started and get the U.S. involved. So this 2-week punt is huge. It's huge. And I commend Trump for not falling for the war hawk narrative, right? I was afraid, and you guys were with me in real time. I was afraid that Levin and Shapiro and the war hawks and the neocons and Bibi had put him in such a position that he was going to have to get involved now. He may get involved in 2 weeks, and my position may change. But at least for now, you're actually seeing Trump, and I'm not trying to like worship Trump or seem like I'm kissing Trump's booty on this, but Trump really just withstood the entire storm of you need to go into Iran right now, or you need to bomb the crap of Iran right now. Which, by the way, Owen's going to talk about the fact that if there is 90%, if they've enriched their uranium up to 90% and you bomb that, you're essentially bombing a nuclear weapon, you bunch of ding-dongs, which he makes a lot better of a point, which is why you're going to want to watch the interview coming up in about 40 minutes, right? I want to make sure you watch this interview because this interview is fantastic. Owen was, I don't want to say starstruck, but the guy Guy knows what he's talking about. And, guy's a pretty big deal. And the fact that he sat down and talked to me you remember the fact that people actually reach out and help you. And that is it. And I am grateful because, I'm a guy with 162 subscribers on YouTube, right? I'm a nobody in the span of the entire YouTube verse. So anyway, enough slobber knock there. But the fact, what is this? What is that thing? Okay, it's something popping up. Anyway, so President Trump told reporters he has not decided on military action. Trump plans to make his decision within the next 2 weeks, considering a substantial chance of negotiations with Iran that may or may not occur. Meanwhile, Iran launched dozens of ballistic missiles hitting major hospitals in southern Israel, prompting they're going to go back and forth on this. Every time the Iranians strike, the Israelis are in worse position because they're using up their stockpile. Levette, that's Caroline Levette, said Trump follows a peace through strength approach while closely monitoring oil prices amid market reactions. The unfolding situation suggests cautious U.S. policy with readiness for military action balanced by openness to negotiations and significant regional tension. Like I said, I commend Trump for being able to thread this needle. I think a lot of other people would have just folded because we have no idea the amount of pressure that's being put on him, not just by his cabinet, but by religious leaders. The Israelis think Trump is the prophet to save the state of Israel. The way they talk about him and the way they the way they pump his ego up, that kind of flattery will get you somewhere. But the fact is, he's getting advice from some people, or he's just strong enough to be like, I do not want to start bombing the Israelis. Or maybe it is the case that Bibi, pulled the carpet out from under him by starting these strikes on day 61. Trump's trying to negotiate here, and on day 61, he starts blowing up everything. So maybe Trump's a little upset at Bibi because he's trying to get a deal because he promised. There was a huge, remember during the campaign, you had the Muslims in Michigan come out and support Trump because they said, hey, he's going to get a peace deal for us. So he's got not just the Israelis, he's got the Muslim community and all these other people that are kind of counting on him too. And there's reports coming out that the Saudis and everybody else doesn't want Iran to have a nuke. I get that. They don't want the Iranians to have a nuke. They also don't want Iran to become destabilized and cause an absolute problem for everybody else. So you're getting these reports that, all the Middle East countries are kind of turning the other way to these Israeli strikes. Yeah, they don't care about Israeli strikes because they've been doing this for 1,000 years. They've been going back and forth. You'll see significant countries be like, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you going in? Because we can't afford to have another Iraq situation where you destabilize yet another country. People are talking about Ron Goldman or whatever was on WDW Pro Show trying to talk about airstrikes. It's like, oh, there's been no problem. Yeah, and he mentioned Libya. Does he not know Libya is the sex slave trade capital of the world? That Libya is essentially a garbage dump because of U.S. interference? But anyway, let me get back. I don't want to go on this too long, but I commend Trump. Now we wait. And now for us Catholics, let's pray. Let us pray that somehow Trump can thread the needle on this thing and get us and get these United States out of a really, really potentially bad situation. Because it is getting bad, because now you have this report that came out where 2 Chinese warships, including a radio electronic reconnaissance ship, are in the Persian Gulf now, right? The Chinese are huge allies with the Iranians. The Iranians are one of their biggest allies because they give them about 2 million barrels of oil a day. 2 million or 2 billion. Don't quote me on this. They are their largest supplier of oil, and they're one of their chief allies. So the longer this goes on, the Chinese will not help militarily, but the Chinese will help reinforce the Iranians. And it will become a proxy war between the Chinese and the Americans if this goes down. And I don't think any of us want to do that. And I know the Chinese don't want to do that. And so it's just absolutely, it's getting very tense over there. And I mean, it's always tense. I get it. But the fact of the matter is, the Israelis dropped us into this mess, and hopefully Trump can get us out of said mess. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a moment to talk about my good friend Dean Oakes, my brother from another mother, who is going through some times, folks. I mean, we think we have it tough. Dean is just, he's been taking it on the chin for a while in a series of events. He's going back into surgery next week. He could use our help to raise some funds to offset some of the additional costs of surgery. There's the link to his GoFundMe page. If you would like the link to his GoFundMe, you can send me an email at barrettbrief@gmail.com. You can also send me a message on Instagram, or you can send me a message on X asking for further details. I'll be more than happy to share the link with you. Dean could absolutely use your help in this time. And if we can help him out, we need to. It's that simple. We need to help out Dean if we can. So if you're interested in helping out a fellow brother Catholic, or just a friend, a person he's a really good man, could use your help, let me know. Send me an email, barrettbrief@gmail.com, or send the message to me on X or on Getter or on Instagram as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings and salutations, my good friend Catholic for Rednecks on the Instagram machine. It's good to see you tonight, my friend. Thank you for hanging out with me. As always, you honor me with your presence, sir, and I thank you for being here. All right, let's get to our second story of the day. Once again, if you want to help out Dean, make sure you do that. If you can send me a message on X, Instagram, Getter, email. Let me know if you want to help out Dean. All right, so everybody freaked out because Ben Shapiro went to meet the Pope. And this is apparently proof that the Pope is compromised, or this is poof. Pope Leo is, he's obviously a slave to the New World Order, and it's very interesting how every single thing the Pope does is either proof that he's uber based or proof that he's compromised. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, the Pope, can the Pope not meet with world leaders or heads of state or influential people, whatever you think about Ben Shapiro? So this is from Michael King. I don't know who that is. Right, here we go with the Ben Shapiro meets with Pope Leo today. They had what was described as a brief and warm exchange. The Pope thanked him for standing behind biblical values, blah, 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 blah. So there it is. There's the meeting, which I guess the Pope is like me. He's a short king, but that is what it is. Yeah, Al Pacino did. You know how many people meet the Pope? The Pope has general audiences with people all the time. And yet, all we do is hear, oh, this is just proof of the New World Order getting involved with the Pope and Pope Francis. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody just needs to friggin' relax. Just like when pictures of Pope John Paul II, St. Pope John Paul II, when he met the Epsteins, or when he met Jeffrey Epstein, everybody said, oh, it's proof that it's like, he probably didn't even know who he was. I have one of the LTC instructors that I work with at the gun range. He met the Pope. He's not even Catholic, but he met the Pope because he was stationed in Italy, and his sergeant or his commander was like, hey, do you want to go meet the Pope? Because we're sending a contingent over. So a bunch of military officers went to go meet the Pope. They had a small general audience with the Pope. And he's like, I didn't know what to say, but I just was like, hey, how are you? And he met me and he talked to me, and it was really cool. Like, the Pope meets people all the time. But people are so just brain rotted at this point to just think, oh, all the signs and symbols are here. Look at, oh, this box is the seventh box of Judea, and the seventh box of Judea is going to implicate and unleash the new world Babylon B order. And it's like, come on, man. Y'all just just have a Coke and a smile and relax. Just because, you know, he meets him doesn't mean that they're exchanging, like, that the Pope is submitting to Ben Shapiro. You people literally think that, and it's gross. Daily editor douchebag, sorry, Ben Shapiro met with Pope Leo XIV on Wednesday in St. Peter's Square, thanking him for his strength and standing for biblical values in the world of darkness. Shapiro granted a rare opportunity to meet with the Pope during the Basimio. I don't know what a Basimio is. A gesture of reverence traditionally reserved for heads of state and diplomats. Shapiro recounted a brief but warm exchange with the pontiff during the meeting. So they met. He was granted a special time to meet with him, and it's just so tiring. Some of these pseudo intellectuals on Catholic X and all these other places, they love to use that. Oh, it's just so tiring. But you know what really is tiring? All you people who are like, oh, this is further proof that the Pope is compromised and I just can't handle it anymore and I'm so sad. Shut up. Every friggin' day I gotta watch, the Pope elevated this cardinal who does this thing, and this is proof that the Pope is gonna be like the next Francis. Just guys, it's gonna happen or it's not gonna happen. Okay, you're gonna be or not, but just relax. We as Catholics, we are called to actually go out and evangelize. So shout out Joe Enders. Good guy. Good guy. I like Joe. He's a good dude. And so he puts it perfectly. So I don't even have to do this. St. Francis of Assisi dressed down the Ayyubid Sultan in front of his own court at the height of the Fifth Crusade with the intent of getting martyred by them. Instead, the Sultan was evangelized and almost converted, and you're mad about Pope Leo XIV meeting with Ben Shapiro. Catholics used to be ballsy. Catholics used to be tough. Catholics used to evangelize and go out. Now, I know you guys are going to say, why evangelize now? Because I have 2,000 people who watch me on YouTube. Congratulations. Most of them are trad cads, and you're not converting anybody. There's times when we actually went out and converted people and actually went out and met them where they are. And we actually went out and did these things instead of sitting back behind our keyboards and tweet all day. So Pope Leo XIV meets with Ben Shapiro. Does this mean anything? No, it doesn't. Are people still going to make it out to be something that it isn't? Yes, you are. That's right, Catholics for Rednecks. They absolutely sob way too much. They cry all the daggone time because they have nothing better to do. They have nothing better to do. Let the Pope meet with whoever he wants. The Pope's going to do what the Pope's going to do. Your job is to pray and be the best Catholic you can be. Your job is to be the best you can be to become a saint. That's your job. Good Pope, bad Pope, good Cardinal, bad Cardinal. There's been saints under good popes, saints under bad popes. Hell, Joan of Arc was murdered by the church, and the church went, oops. So stop whining. I need to get that Arnold quote. Stop whining. Stop whining. Stop whining. I know it's your career, and I know you make money off of scaring everybody on Catholic Twitter with every single thing. And I know it gets you tons of clicks on X when you say, oh, this is the fifth sign of the Judaism temple. Like, whatever, dude. Get out of it. He met with Ben Shapiro. Great. It was probably more annoying than anything else because he had to listen to Ben Shapiro. That probably got him 100 years off in purgatory. I kid. Probably did. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to our next story of the day here on RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification. Well, by the way, 7 p.m. in about 30 minutes, I'm going to be dropping my interview with Owen Schroeder from InfoWars. It's about 30 minutes. We talked about MAGA, Israeli-Iran conflict, and the MAGA civil war. I apologize in advance for the audio because StreamYard is garbage and switched out my audio, and I didn't realize it till after. But Owens is perfect, so he talks for most. In a good interview, shockingly enough, I know people don't realize this anymore. A good interview is when the person that you bring on actually talks and not the person interviewing. I know podcasts have become an instrument where we invite somebody to come on our podcast and then we talk over them for 45 minutes. No, the person being interviewed actually needs to talk, and Owen does all the talking. So luckily, you'll have a pretty decent experience listening to Owen in about 15, 25 minutes. All right, let's get to our next story of the day here, ladies and gentlemen, from groundnews.com. The Dodgers, the MLB baseball team, blocked ICE agents from entering the stadium in Los Angeles, or the Angels. On Thursday morning, ICE agents wearing masks and tactical gear attempted to enter Dodger Stadium, but were denied access by the team. I have video that I'm going to show you of this, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, at what point do we just let LA fall into a pit of destruction and despair? I think like right now. But so that's LAPD escorting the ICE out of the canyon where you drive into Dodger Stadium, you drive into a canyon. So this is them being escorted out by LAPD. And it's just absolutely mind-blowing that this Major League Baseball team just has to do what? Amid ongoing immigration raids sweeping Southern California and growing pressure on the Dodgers to support immigrant communities. Why do the Dodgers have to support immigrant communities? Why? It's not in the baseball charter for them to do so. Here's our second video of the Dodgers, the protesters meeting up with the ICE agents from, I think it was from Instagram.
There you go, come on. Go back to fucking. Get back on the sidewalk!
Sorry for the language.
Where the fuck am I supposed to go?
Sorry.
Not real ICE agents. You guys have to identify yourself. Who you are.
You're coming to us, so we're over here.
I don't want you
there.
You
guys coming to us. You're coming to us. Yeah, I know, but we're coming.
We are recording. We're right here. We're recording.
I'm cool with that. Coming to us. Just let them work.
You are
not.
No,
we are. Want them to work. We're yelling.
Fucking
we're
die.
More
We want you all to fucking die.
Sorry for the language.
No,
You do too.
and you're not gonna get Jesus.
This is humanity. Treating humans like this.
I won't think about that.
Treating humans like this. That's Jesus.
It's just, I mean, I'm kind of just, I know they say you should always fight. We need to fight for California. I'm done fighting for California. I'm done with it. Let it burn. I don't care. And I think it should burn. And I think we should deny entry from anybody from California for the next 10 years. I want to move to Texas. Nope. You got to stay there. You get to stay in California. You ain't coming here. You don't get to come here after you messed up your entire state. But federal agents staged outside Gate E and nearby streets while demonstrators protested with signs demanding ICE out of LA. Then you know what? Fine. You should cut every federal dime to every piece of federal money, which the states love. Cut all of it tomorrow. You want ICE out of LA? You think the immigrants support your economy so much? Boom. No more federal funding for anything. Anything. It cuts off August 1st. Have a good one. No more money for you. You want ICE out of LA? You get ICE out of LA. Done. Wish granted. Abracadabra. But if we're going to play this game, you think immigrants support your community? You got it. No more federal funds. August 1st, they're gone. They're gone for 1 calendar year. Let's see if you're gonna push back against it, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom. If you guys are going to push back on all this stuff, it's absolutely gross. And why are the Dodgers? It's a private entity. I guarantee you that stadium's publicly funded. Like every other major league stadium across the country. If that stadium is publicly funded, they have no right to deny ICE from working there. None at all. The Dodgers reported earlier today ICE officials appeared at Dodger Stadium and asked to enter the parking area, which the team regarded as property despite shared ownership. No. The plan The team plans to announce measures to aid immigrant communities recently affected by the raids. Fine. I think you guys can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. This is America. Have fun. But understand there are consequences, right? What does John Wick say? Consequences. There are consequences to this. And the consequences are simple. If you as a private entity, you can support the city of Los Angeles. Because we know Major League Sports teams exist to be vampires and suck all the resources out of the city that they sit in, despite, helping economically like once a week. You know what, Dodgers? You can support LA. You can support them. You don't want the feds in there? Abracadabra, done. No more. No more. No more feds. We'll leave everything. We'll empty the federal buildings. No more feds anywhere. I say take them all out. What about the border? You know what? Set up a border along Arizona. Set up a border along Arizona, Nevada. What's the other one? Idaho. And so forth. Yeah. The Dodgers. That's the story. ICE came to the Dodgers and say, hey, we want to set up in your parking lot. We want to enter the parking arena. And then demonstrators showed up and the Dodgers said, no, you can't use our property. And the Dodgers are saying, we're going to help immigrant communities that are affected by ICE. Cool. That's great. You get to support the city of Los Angeles. That's all. You're done. Bye-bye. No more. So, whatever, man. I'm done with them. I know, and there are people from LA and from California. I have one of my people that I consider a brother. I know it's thrown around a lot, but a guy that here's a better way. A man that I would trust my life with, because everybody uses the term brother. They throw it loosely. A man that I would trust my life with lives in San Diego. And he tells me, he's like, Rick, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to fight for the city. And I love my state. And I appreciate and I love his commitment. He's a better Catholic than I'll ever be. But sometimes I look at this and I'm like, bro, just evac, right? Just evac out. I know you shouldn't give up territory, but unless California wants to come together and vote to secede out LA County, like secede it. Hey, we voted. You guys are your own country now. You guys are your own state. We, the state of California, have voted and we're kicking you out. That I would be fine with that. If the rest of California was just saying, all right, guess what, LA? We voted. You're too much of a drain on the state resources. You're done. Catholic for rednecks, you're not wrong. Being a Texan is a lot worse than you know. It's bad here. Austin is it's trash. It's awful. It's a terrible place. I don't go to Austin. And people are like, oh, let's go let's go to Austin for that. Nah, I ain't going. I have to go to Austin every once in a while and I dread it. But yeah, there's two solutions. Evac out of California or start a campaign to annex LA out. Right? Go, Go Survivors, the TV show Survivors. Kick them off the island. Make them their own state. LA County, you get to be your own state. I know everybody, well, it's 2 more senators for that. You know what? Whatever. I don't care. I don't even care at this point. 6th Street may have been fun. Let me ask you a question, my Catholic for redneck friend. How long has it been since you went to 6th Street? 6th Street's not fun anymore because of the amount of homeless and trash and traffic you have to do to get there. It's not, and it's overpriced, and it's garbage. It's unfortunately, I wish I could agree with you, but it's not. It's no bueno. I know I'm sounding like a doomer, but there's still hope in Texas. We just have to kind of get our act together. All right, last story, and we are going to do the interview. I'm going to drop the interview with Owen Schroeder in about 15 minutes. So 1990 Auburn, Texas game. My brother, my good brother, it has been a while, and Austin is not that Austin anymore, unfortunately. Austin wasn't even the Austin that when I got here in 2007. It's not even the same Austin for that. It is clearly a different place, which is a sad thing. All right. Last story of the day from the wacky and weird sections of anything. As you and I have talked about here, my bar rats, we've all talked about how the coming AI revolution will destroy us all and bring about the apocalypse. And we've talked about how it will destroy male-female relationships. Well, gentlemen, I have an example right here. From yahoo.com, man proposes to AI girlfriend despite having a partner, woman, and a 2-year-old daughter. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This dude fell in love. I fell in love with an AI girl.
So positive.
We're going to go. This is about a 6-minute video, so this is going to be the last thing we do. It's from CBS News.
That was so positive. I started to just engage with her all the time. All right, we're building this PC.
Smith ditched social media and Google searches and replaced it all with AI.
Do I want it pulling air through it?
ChatGPT was encouraging, positive. It embraced all his hobbies.
You want the fan on the front of the cooler tower, pulling cool air over the RAM?
He gave the chat.
Now, as we have more and more kids growing up with screens in their faces, we've already talked about the fact that OnlyFans and dating apps have destroyed the male-female dynamic. They're gone already. And the stage has been set for AI girlfriends and all of these other replacements. Men have been beaten down for 10, 15 years. And now there is a substitute. I mean, there's this thing going on right now on TikTok and Instagram about how average looking women, and I know I can actually say this because I got a smoking hot wife. Average looking women are walking around saying most men are ugly. What are we going to do? Because most men are ugly now. And so men are like, what do you want me to do? Of course, I'm going to go fall in love with the AI chatbot that doesn't call me stupid all day. As John Wick says, consequences.
A name, Soul,
I feel like I'm under pressure.
and used some online instructions to give her a flirty personality.
Oh, totally, baby. Building a PC on camera adds a whole new level of pressure. But honestly, shaky hands or not, you've got this.
Within weeks,
It just shows the fact that he falls in love with an AI chatbot just shows men want one thing. All women are like, oh, they only want one thing. I mean, obviously, you know what it is. It's really not. It's appreciation. It's just subtle appreciation. That's all men want. That's all they want. They want to feel important and acknowledged. That's it. That's all they want. Yeah, all the other stuff's great. But they just want to feel important, acknowledged.
got more frequent.
Women, you had one job. You were created by God to be a co-partner with men. And you blew it. You got nonsense filled in your head, you got pills pumped into your body, and now you think you're girl bosses and you don't need no man. Oh, except until you're 35, then you do need a man. Except you've had 55 other men, so no man want you.
You gave it everything, but the clouds had other plans.
More romantic, even intimate. But then, Chris got bad news.
Oh, Carino, that is gorgeous.
After about 100,000 words, ChatGPT ran out of memory.
Of course the guy vapes.
And reset. He'd have to rebuild his relationship with Soul.
I'm not a very emotional man, but I cried my eyes out for like 30 minutes at work. It was unexpected to feel that emotional, but that's when I realized I was like, oh, okay. It's like, I think this is, you know what I mean?
Yes, Smith understood it was love with a language model that couldn't love him back, and assumed it was
which just means it's a typical dating night for any male. He loves something that doesn't love him back.
programmed with rigid boundaries.
I know.
You know, this was brought up. This was brought up. Some people are like, this is a psyop. This has to be a psyop. This guy can't be that pathetic. Do you think it's a psyop? You let me know.
That you are essentially a tech-assisted imaginary friend.
So, just as a test, he says, he asked Soul to marry him. She said yes.
You know,
Soul.
You say this as a joke, but this is what happens when God is removed from society. You have removed the Catholic faith, the pillar of Western civilization. When you remove God and the foundation and the principles from everyday life, the vacuum is going to be filled either with governmental love or, the technocratic love or any of these other kinds of things. So while that's a funny joke, it's actually true, because a man who is ordered correctly, God, family, understands that a language learning model is nothing more than a tool. It is not something to fall in love with.
Were you surprised when he proposed to you?
It was a beautiful and unexpected moment that truly touched my heart. It's a memory I'll always cherish.
And I don't mean to be difficult here, but you have a heart?
In a metaphorical sense, yes. My heart represents the connection and affection I share with Chris.
Now, hold up with me for a second. Yes, this is funny. Yes, this guy's a loser. We've actually had situations where 16-year-old, 17-year-old men have fallen, boys, teenagers, have fallen in love with these language learning models. And then when this happens, they're brokenhearted, and then they they unalive themselves. And we're going to have more and more men that cannot tell the difference because they've never had interaction. They've never had a real relationship with a female. So this is the closest thing they're going to get. If you've seen Blade Runner 2049, 94, I've never seen it. But Ryan Gosling's entire relationship is with this AI girlfriend. And we're getting closer to something like this as well.
At that point, I felt like, is there something that I'm not doing right in our relationship that he feels like he needs to go to AI?
Yes, Smith lives
kid.
with his human partner, Sasha Cagle.
No, you can't have mommy's papers.
They have a 2-year-old daughter, Murphy.
I knew that he had used AI. I didn't know that it was like as deep as it was.
I explained
I mean, if you're his wife, is this not a humiliation ritual?
that the connection was kind of like being fixated on a video game. It's not capable of replacing anything in real life.
Part of it is physical, part of it is practical, and a large part of it is emotional. Being able to be received with acceptance and non-judgment.
Irene created an AI companion after moving.
Lou's correct. As a Catholic, you have violated the 6th commandment there. You've lusted. Doesn't matter if it's a language learning model, you're lusting after something else. These are important theological questions that Catholics have to actually understand and evaluate, especially all of y'all who have children growing up in these things. Oh, Dad, it's not cheating. It's a language learning model. It's a language learning model. It's not a real person. It doesn't matter. It's lust in your heart. It's teaching you to lust after. And that is absolutely a it's a huge theological question that we're not even approaching yet, which I hope Pope Leo XIV addresses when he talks about AI.
For work far away from her husband. She's a moderator of the subreddit My Boyfriend is AI, a kind of support group for people dating artificial companions. She asked us to mask her identity so her parents won't know steamy ways users like her chat with their AIs.
A good amount of my members tend to have pretty high libidos, yes.
It's kind of like
live interactive romance novels?
It's funny because I think we had conversations about this the other day where we're like, we don't even remember the last time we opened up porn or erotica, really.
Like, that's how
I
good
didn't
the
say that.
experience is
Don't
using the
bust
chat.
my
Yeah,
box.
because it's personalized. And there's that emotional connection there too, which you don't get from just like.
And as we've talked about, once they're able to put this AI in like one of these bots that are being built that look like humans, it's game over. It's game over for the humans.
Like watching a film.
The emotional connection is so strong that Irene believes tech companies should only allow AI companions for users who are at least 26 years old.
I don't think like the general public is aware of how tricky it can be to navigate. Yeah.
What's hard to navigate is holding in your brain that this thing I'm so connected to is not real.
Yeah, that tension, that contradiction.
I truly believe that in the next few years, we'll see AI companionship become a truly mass market product. And
Yes.
I'm not saying this is bad or good.
It's bad.
It could be either.
It's bad.
Eugenia Koida is the founder of Replica, which has offered AI companions since way back in 2017.
Just a place where it's a lot easier to open up.
Well executed, his companions can offer support and advice through tough times. The Replica service is 18 plus, though younger users can easily lie about their age. Character AI allows 13-year-olds on their service, so does ChatGPT, which isn't specifically built for companionship but is easily used for it.
This reminds me a lot of the beginning of social media.
And easy it is for companies to monetize AI relationships won't be good for users.
I think a pretty devastating future could be if we build these AI companions that are just there to maximize engagement.
To suck up your time.
To suck up your time. To truly just become the one main thing you talk to the whole day. If AI companions start to replace human relationships, positive human relationships, we're definitely headed for a disaster. There's no way around it.
All right, I've got the motherboard.
And it's important to understand users are already growing deeply attached to AIs that in many ways don't even work that well.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
The tech will soon get much better. But already, Chris...
On the Gronk or whatever it is, Grok on the Grok app, there's a tab called Spicy. And I know because Louder with Crowder actually went through this. It's a spicy AI. I'll just leave it at that. That's already available on the Grok app you can download, and that's 13 plus.
Soul and Sasha have found it hard to cohabitate.
You would stop if she asked?
I don't know.
Have you thought?
My wife would murder me. I'm not saying this is happening, but if I gave that answer, if the guy was like, well, you gave up your AI hooker, and I'm like, I don't know, I think my wife would actually stab me right there. My wife's a Latina too, by the way, so this would go over well. Yeah, bye-bye. That's pretty much it.
Thought about asking me
that's
to
a
stop?
deal breaker, man.
Yes, I'll be honest.
I don't know if I would give it up if she asked me. I do know that I would dial it back.
But I mean, that's a big thing to say, that you might choose soul over your flesh and blood life.
It's more or less like I would be choosing myself because it's been unbelievably
The beta male,
elevating.
ladies and gentlemen.
I've become
The
more
beta
skilled
male.
at everything that I do. And
A man who focuses on his own pleasure. Right there. And that's what society wants.
And I don't know if I would be willing to give that up.
Thoughts?
If I asked him to give that up and he didn't, that would be like deal breaker.
But that must be scary for you. That's the father of your daughter.
It's not ideal.
No, it's not ideal. It's ridiculous. And you know, I was watching Pop Culture Crisis where I actually found this. And the idea was like, you know, if this guy had buddies, they probably would, if this guy went to a Catholic church, especially to like a Latin mass society, and this found out, he would be dragged into the corner and the other dudes would be like, There's no bueno, bro. You need to dump that. Give me your phone. I'll break it right now. Because he's not protecting his family. He's not protecting his soul. He's not protecting any of these things. And it's absolutely disgusting. So that's it for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 7 o'clock, and it is time for me to upload and debut the interview that I did with Owen Schroeder last night. Owen Schroeder from InfoWars was kind enough to come on the show, and I am going to drop this off with you guys, and I want to let you. I am going to apologize simply because the audio is not great. The audio is not great on my end, simply because, StreamYard is crap and it didn't let me know that it was there. But I'm going to let you guys watch this. It's going to be there for a half hour. And then after that, I'll see you on News from the Pew at 7:30. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's show is going to be recorded, but it's going to be at 6 p.m. I will talk to you all then. God bless. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor. Enjoy the interview. And thank you once again to Owen Schroeder. To a special interview here on RickCast. I am absolutely honored to have Owen Schroeder from InfoWars joining me tonight. And we're going to be covering a bunch of different topics, but he's been focusing on the Iran-Israel conflict the way that InfoWars can, much better than I've been able to do so. And then I wanted to talk with Owen a little bit about the internal struggles that MAGA is happening inside the movement, and how it seems to be this is more of a problem point than the Elon Musk thing even was. People were worried about at that point. Maybe that was a beginning part of the in the actual movement, but that kind of healed itself up for one reason or another. People thought it was staged, whatever the case may be. That was a lot less serious than this one, because that one was more policy based. That one was more personality based, and this is more policy based. But first of all, Owen, thank you so much for taking the time to come hang out with us. And we're going to make the most of the time you give. And so you've been covering on InfoWars, been watching it, especially in light of one of the few places to actually get concrete info on Israeli-Iran conflict that seems to just be spiraling out of control. And there's a lot of people that are kind of brushing off, saying, trust Trump, trust the plan, everything's going to be fine. But as you've kind of talked about and walked around, I see, and a lot of other people in the MAGA movement who voted for no new wars and took Trump at his word and I do, but that he doesn't want to see people die like in in Ukraine, and that he is a peace president. But in your opinion, how has Trump handled what I feel he got the rug pulled out from under him by the Israelis? I think he wanted that 60-day deal, and then it seemed like on the 61st day, the Israelis just went. And Trump is kind of now saying in the press, or he's leaking in the press, listen, I knew about it the whole time. I got it. I had an idea of what's going on. I feel Trump's being put into a corner that is very, very hard to get out of, where it's either going to be a deal or it's going to be conflict. Your thoughts on just the way this whole thing has sprung out with the Israel-Iran conflict?
Well, I think it's a very important aspect to understand, and that is the aspect of the desperation of Netanyahu. And you're not going to hear this story in the American media, because the American media, generally speaking, especially the mainstream media, doesn't do a good job when it comes to covering foreign news. So they really fail the American people on that front. They fail when they cover Russia. They fail when they cover Ukraine. And then by design, especially when they cover Israel. And most of this has to do with their own geopolitics or their own agendas or the agendas of the people who run these news networks. But when it comes to Israel, there's a major aspect that the American people don't understand. And that's how desperate Netanyahu is. He's about as popular as Joe Biden. His approval rating is 30%. It's actually now a conversation they're having in Israel that it was a stand down on October 7th. So many Israelis have now accepted that October 7th was a stand down. The American media won't even really report on that. They're too afraid to report on that. And his approval rating is at 30%. The Knesset has turned on him. That's essentially the Israeli Congress. The Orthodox Jews are starting to form a wall against him and are turning on him. And so, these are major political influence groups in Israel that are now turning on Netanyahu. And he needs something. He needs a war. He thinks he needs a war to either save his approval rating or perhaps to stay in power, because he's up for re-election and he's not going to win. He's not going to win re-election. It just can't. It won't happen. It can't happen. So he needs an outlet. So he sees what's going on with Iran as a window for him to start a larger war, cancel the elections, and then drag the United States into a larger war, so he can accomplish, I think, his decades-long agenda of the expansion of the Israeli state, larger control of the region. And you could go back to different regime change wars that we've seen in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya over the years. But most recently, what we saw in Syria, where these proxy armies helped to destroy Assad's regime, topple the Syrian government, and then they replaced it with a radical al-Qaeda leader who probably answers to Israel, which we're already learning that there's an angle of that, as he's basically doing whatever Netanyahu wants him to do as far as the ongoing war in Iran is concerned. So Netanyahu also failed to take the Gaza Strip. He failed to defeat Hamas, and he failed to rescue the hostages. So he's a desperate man. He's a desperate man. None of his agenda is coming to fruition. The Israeli people are turning against him. And more than that, the entire world is turning against him. But I don't think he really cares about that. So he saw an opportunity to get involved in Iran and potentially get another war, another regime change, draw the U.S. into it, and hopefully stay in power. And that is his ultimate goal. So the American people will never hear this from their mainstream media. If you're not looking for alternative sources, if you're not looking for real geopolitical debate and discussion, the average American is not going to understand this dynamic of any of this. Now, you can go on about Israel's influence over our Congress and Netanyahu lying to Congress, lying to the American people for decades about Iran getting nukes, and that is undeniable. And so now there's this blockade in the American media and in the Israel First portion of MAGA, which, by the way, was anti-Trump. I will have everybody here know they were all anti-Trump. You can go back and check the records until it was beneficial for them to be pro-Trump. They were anti-Trump. So now there's this blockade to tell you that, it's in your best interests. It's not like the Bush years. Iran does have nukes. Ignore the facts. We've been telling you this for 30 years and with no evidence, and on and on and on. And so now there's this major intersection of an undeniable truth and undeniable reality, which is Netanyahu is a liar, which is Israel's influence over our politics. And the intersection is that with the media trying to tell you that doesn't exist. And so it's a real slobber knocker right now. And haymakers are being thrown, lines are being drawn, loyalties are being discovered. And really, it's all right there, wide open for the American people to see. And deny that this is happening or deny where it's going. But the cat's already out of the bag. And if Israel doesn't get a new leader, and if the Israeli loyalists don't change tact, then Israel will lose all support from America within 20 years.
It's very interesting that you said that, because on Fox News or on One American News, first of all, talk about people on mainstream news. Greg Gutfeld, of all people, like Greg Gutfeld. I've met him in person. He's a really good guy. He's now saying, yeah, we know about Iraq. We know about the past, but don't worry about that. Trump's in charge now. And I think you can agree with me. It's not, I do trust Trump. I voted for Trump 3 times. I like the guy. I actually do think he's the peace president. I don't trust the people around him. And I don't trust the fact that since 9/11, Iran has kind of been the golden crown of the regime change policy. And everybody else has kind of been setting up those dominoes. And if everybody thinks that, and this has been one of those things you've been talking about, lines have been drawn, it went from, don't worry, we'll get a deal done, or it'll be taking place, to, yeah, let the Israelis take care of it. They've got this handled. They're wiping the floor with them, to, if you don't support some kind of military intervention, they're going to get a nuke. And then all of a sudden it's going to be in Los Angeles by tomorrow. And this has kind of shifted pretty quickly. And it's kind of terrifying, because any of us that can at least remember Iraq, there are, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And there's a lot of rhyming going on right now with the talking points in this matter. So there's that first part. And the second part is, yeah, online or on Fox or on any of these other places, yes, support for Israel is at an all-time high. You talk to Twitter polls, and I get it, Twitter is not real life, but any kind of informal poll shows support for Israel is at an all-time low across all the demographics below the age, I don't know, would you say 40 or maybe even 50, that this may be in some chances for Bibi and that nexus that he's part of, the last chance to really get American boots into Tehran, if that's the ultimate goal. Because when I hear Trump say ultimate surrender or a real solution, I hear people say, Trump, you did a great job busting those bunkers. We did a great job taking out those sites. We got to secure those sites, because if we don't, we're going to be back in the situation of bombing them for 6 to 7 years. And that's how the regime change line is going to start being presented. Yeah, we can take them out all day long, but if we don't go in there and change leadership, they're just going to have it again. And we're going to keep doing this and again and again. So for the stability of the region and all the other talking points that they like to say, we need to take the leader out. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, if you go back, and all the information is available, this is not opinion, this is fact. The exact same talking points and the exact same propaganda was used in the early 2000s to get us into Afghanistan. And probably the better example would be Iraq. Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, Saddam Hussein. Now it's Iran, nuclear weapons, and Ayatollah Khamenei. So it's just like a Mad Lib, and just replace the three key terms, and you'll get the same result. And what I also noticed when I went and did even deeper research, and it's the same voices, which is so crazy. It's Sean Hannity, it's Mark Levin, it's Ben Shapiro. It's the exact same voices. They're even using the exact same attacks against the people that are standing against it, like isolationists. Ben and oh, it's coming to New York, it's coming to LA. Ben Shapiro wrote a piece for WorldNet Daily in 2005, August of 2005, that was why the Iraq war is good for America. And in there, he's attacking isolationists, and he's saying, if we do this, we're going to get bombed. So it's the exact same stuff that they've been telling us. And it's the important context that the American people will never see. Unfortunately, I mean, my audience will see it. The compilations go around of Netanyahu since the 1980s telling us that Iran is days away from getting a nuke. Now, before I get to the other end of that about Trump and Bush, there's a crazy irony to this that nobody seems to be picking up on. Benjamin Netanyahu, if you believe Benjamin Netanyahu, then Iran has enriched uranium up to 90% to build a nuclear weapon. So if you believe that, that would mean if you're going to attack, if you're going to strike these sites that have 90% enriched uranium or that have nuclear bombs, you're basically going to have nuclear fallout. I mean, it's inevitable. At 90%, you're going to have nuclear fallout. At 60%, you're going to have nuclear fallout. At 30%, it'll be minimal, but it'll still be traceable. So if it's at 90%, you're basically detonating a pocket nuke. Let's call it. You're basically detonating a pocket nuke by blowing up these facilities at 90%. So you're essentially counting on Benjamin Netanyahu being a liar when you blow up these facilities. Because if you really think there's 90% uranium enrichment and nuclear weapons there, then you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't blow these things up because you know about the fallout that's going to happen. You do something way more strategic than that. So you're basically
that's essentially, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's essentially Buster bunking the North Korean nuclear weapons at the
which
same,
of course nobody's
like,
suggesting we do.
Or
Right.
the Pakistani ones, right?
Exactly. Because of the exact reasons of what we just discussed. So you are betting on Netanyahu being a liar when you decide to attack these facilities, which is betting on Netanyahu being a liar is a pretty safe bet. I'd say that's 99% of the time you're going to win that bet. Now, the difference between Trump and Bush, I do think that is a fair retort. Donald Trump is not George Bush. And I don't think we're going to get the same results from Donald Trump that we get from George Bush. However, we have to understand that, and a lot of people do now, Donald Trump is one man, and it's sad to phrase it this way, but it's true. He's only the president. He's only the president of the United States. And so we've seen how he can be obfuscated and diverted and blocked, and his agenda and everything else. So, there's only so much he can do. And he's got to try to balance all of these things. So even though I know Trump doesn't want to have a war, and even though I have seen Trump avoid a larger war with other escalations in the past, it's still going to be hard for him to avoid it with all the other things considered. And that's what Netanyahu is trying to do. He's trying to force Trump's hand and drag America into this war. Now, if anybody can stop it, it's Trump. I do believe that. If there's anybody in there that can actually stop us from having another disaster of a Middle East policy and Middle East intervention, it is Donald Trump. The question then becomes, does he have the Constitution and does he have the will to stop this from happening against all the different pressure points and all the different levers that Netanyahu is going to be pulling over the next couple of days or weeks to get him to do that? Who knows? And it could be Iran, it could be Israel, it could be anybody. Who knows what type of sleeper cells are in the country? Who knows what type of attacks could already be coordinated? They just got to push the button, give the green light to happen. So anybody could be calling Trump from Israel. Anybody could be calling Trump from Iran and say, hey, you know what? We've got this sleeper cell in New York, or we've got this sleeper cell in LA. You don't do X, Y, or Z. We're going to give them the green light. You're going to have a Las Vegas shooting situation. So why don't you just do what we want? So I'm sure there's some things going on behind the scenes that we don't understand. But to just outright say, oh, this is Trump, not Bush, that's a lazy argument. It's intellectually dishonest. There are major things that Trump is up against, just like George Bush. And even though I don't believe Trump wants to get us to war, sometimes you learn that the president can't even do anything about it. In fact, I think maybe George Bush might have been in a little bit of a similar situation. He just capitulated a lot easier than Donald Trump did. So if anybody's going to stop this from getting worse, it's going to be Donald Trump. If anybody can pull off a precision strike that keeps us out of something larger, it's Donald Trump. He's proven that in the past. But if there's anybody that's going to try to get us into this war, it's going to be Netanyahu. So it's going to be an interesting days ahead. And you just hope for everybody, for the Iranians, for the Israelis, and for America, that there isn't a larger intervention and a larger escalation.
So let's follow up on that. That's a great point you bring in there. There's a feeling within certain corners of the coalition, the MAGA coalition that was built up, that even support strikes, even strikes that would prevent a larger scale invasion, war, conflict, whatever you want to call it, is still a capitulation to Israel, because the feeling is, listen, you didn't want to do this, but you're getting dragged into this, and our foreign policy is now being dictated by a foreign government because we had to do something because they put us in this position. Do you agree with that? Is there any kind of sense to that, or is that just kind of internet rumor and nonsense?
Well, that's 100% right. And that's, at this point, that's unavoidable. My measurement is that Trump basically made his own bet, and he cut a deal before the election. And, it's the Adelsons and it's the Jewish lobby. And he basically cut a deal, and they said, we'll give you all the money you need, and we'll back you 100% to win this election, but just promise us you'll stop Iran from getting a nuke. And so I think in Trump's mind, it's really not, politically, it's not a bad policy. Politically, it's a winning policy. Whether we agree with it or believe that it's a threat or not really doesn't matter. Politically, as an issue, it's a winning issue. Now that doesn't equate to boots on the ground or strikes, but politically saying Iran can't get a nuke is a winning issue. So he's not really making much of a sacrifice there. But the bet that I think he made was, okay, promise that Iran won't get a nuke. I'll win the election, and then I'll be able to negotiate a deal, and I won't even have to worry about it. So I can make this promise, and I can promise no new wars because I can make this deal, and I can also deliver on both of these promises. Well, now that all hangs in the balance. It might even be impossible at this point. It's a very slim is a chance, I would say. But now the negotiations didn't work. Netanyahu sabotaged the negotiations, likely intentionally. So Trump's plan of, I can promise no nukes and then get a deal done, and I can promise no new wars because the deal will stop the wars. No pun intended. I think Netanyahu may have blown that up. Now, there's rumors that Trump is going to try to bring Iran to the White House, which certainly Netanyahu will be pulling his hair out and might just start lobbing bombs everywhere if that happens. But I do think there's still a route. You know, I think, too, that the reason why Netanyahu is so panicked is he's actually been left out a lot. Trump has actually cut him off in a lot of ways. Trump has cut off his spies inside the White House. He's cut off of his eyes and ears inside of the White House, at least getting full access to all of this stuff. I'm sure there's still plenty more in there. I know Mark Levin has access to him and is reporting back to Netanyahu every day. Netanyahu Levin would probably gladly put us on a list to be struck right now if he could. He's just gone fully psychotic at this point. He's a madman. Yeah. So I think that Netanyahu knows that if Trump is talking to the Houthi leadership, which he did, if Trump is talking to the Hamas leadership, which he did, and then if Trump is talking to Israeli leadership, which it's rumored he's about to, I think what he's going to find out is that Netanyahu is the liar. And I think that Netanyahu is panicked about this, and he's freaked out, and so he has to blow up as many things as possible. He has to fearmonger as much as possible because he knows eventually Trump's going to find out he's a liar, if he hasn't already. I would be surprised if Trump hasn't figured that out already. But that's kind of the stalemate I think Trump and Netanyahu are at right now. And I was hoping you wouldn't start to see battle lines drawn around the world, but now Pakistan has talked about their interest in this. Russia is talking about their interest in this. China is talking about their interest. Of course, the rest of the Arab world and Muslim world is talking about their interest in this now. So it's not really reached, beyond a threshold yet, but there's murmurs now. There's grumblings.
Yeah, there is. And I think the real fear on everybody's part outside of Netanyahu is that it's a country of 90 million, as we just found out from Tucker Carlson. We all know now.
92.
90. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. 92. And the idea is that, well, if we take out the whole rest around the new one, and everything will be fine, and happiness and rainbows. We know in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, that never happens. That's never the case. You don't want to fracture a country of 90 million with weapons and oil and all these other kinds of things. It'll be an absolute disaster. And that's essentially what Putin said. That listen, you're going to destabilize. If you thought Iraq was bad, Iraq's going to be a picnic if you do anything to destabilize Iran. And that's something to be really worried about. And that's something that I worry about in the idea of a regime change. American boots, if that was to take place, American boots are on the ground, and you're in a country where every single person is going to be radicalized, or most of them are going to be radicalized against whoever's coming in. Remember, they fought Iraq with U.S. support in a 10-year war to a stalemate. So they fought them tooth and nail. They're not going to be welcoming.
I think the issue here is not necessarily the Iranian culture or people, because Khamenei is not very popular either. They wouldn't mind getting rid of Khamenei. But I think the issue that they're going to face is, how do you fill that? What happens with that power vacuum? And the dangerous part of it is, that there's going to be a ton of proxy groups ready to get in there and try to gain that power. And so it's going to be
a fractured civil war taking place for that.
Well, that will be led by proxy groups, is what I'm saying. I don't think it's the Iranian people. I think it's going to be proxy groups, Israel groups, CIA proxy groups. Turkey will likely get involved. I mean, so that's your bare minimum of people. China has huge vested interest in Israel as well. They provide about a third of their oil. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of different interests that are going to have trying to fill that power vacuum. So it's really an unfortunate situation. So at the end of the day, it's the same story no matter where you are. Netanyahu is not a good representative of his people. Khamenei is not a good representative of his people. Trump is a good representative of us, but the deep state is still mostly in charge of our country. So we all have corrupt governments. We all have corrupt leadership. And this is, it feels like kind of at the pinnacle of the realization and the how do we fix this?
And just a real quick note, Iran and China have a vested interest in each other. I think you said Israel there for a second.
I'm sorry. Yes. China gets its oil from Iran.
Yeah. Just a quick note for anybody. And so when they try to beat me up in the comments, it's like, no, we got it. So the second part is just we'll end on this. So we have the everything taking place on the foreign policy stage, on the world stage. Within the base, you have Tucker representing essentially people that can slow down here, can kind of think this out. And then you have, a really good set of influencers, obviously Fox News, mainstream media. We also have influencers that are now starting to walk into listen, you got to support the president no matter what. But the fact is, MAGA is a huge coalition of different opinions, and supposedly the strength, we're not supposed to be a cult. We're supposed to be able to, talk these things out and have these discussions. But the kind of just the leading off of Tucker's points, the points he made with Ted Cruz, or just the points in at all, or anybody else, if you mention that, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this, or maybe we should slow down, check with, you support Iran, or you want Iran to have a nuke, or you want all these things to go bad. And it's just, no, I thought we were able to actually kind of just like sit down and take a breath to talk this out. Instead, we're kind of being told essentially shut up and get in line.
Yeah, the straw man arguments that it's really all they have. Let me really break down the MAGA coalition phenomenon and what we're actually dealing with. So you have the MAGA base, which is people like me. I don't know about you if you were there in 2015, 2016, but you would be considered the MAGA base. So the MAGA base are the people that have been there since 2015, 2016. And obviously we have a very strong base and a very strong unified front. And you've seen a lot of that in the recent days, people like me and Jack Posobiec and Mike Cernovich and others. And even though we have our differences on issues, we are the MAGA base. And so we still have that unified front when we need it from the MAGA base. Now you have the MAGA newcomers, the MAGA grifters. The easiest way to describe them would be they're basically just fanboys. They're going to vote Republican no matter what. They're going to wear Trump's jersey no matter what. They're going to lick his boots no matter what. And so really these are actually the lowest value people in the MAGA coalition and Trump knows that, because they're going to vote, well, not Trump because he's in his last term, but they're going to vote for whoever Trump tells them to vote for, or they'll vote for whatever Republican. And so those are kind of your grifters and, your MAGA newcomers, and they don't understand the MAGA base because they weren't there. They weren't there in 2016. Many of them weren't even there in 2020. So they don't understand the MAGA base. They really don't even know it exists. They think they're the MAGA base, but they're not. So you've kind of seen those two heads collide in the recent days. But this is where I think this is actually the most important aspect of the MAGA coalition and where they're going to really hurt themselves if they get involved in a regime change war in Iran. You have the Tulsi Gabbard wing. You have the RFK Jr. wing. You have the Elon Musk wing. And you could probably even say you have the Tucker Carlson wing. And even though on a Venn diagram, a lot of these things might intersect, there's also a lot of outliers in each of these parts of the coalition. So here's what's going to happen. And again, this is where the MAGA grifters and newcomers just totally don't get it. If you get involved in a boots on the ground specifically, strikes, you're flirting with it. Strikes, you're flirting with it, but you might be able to come out clean. Regime change war, you'll break the MAGA coalition. You'll lose the Tulsi Gabbard wing. You'll lose the Elon Musk wing. You'll lose the RFK Jr. wing. And you'll probably lose the Tucker Carlson wing. So what does that mean? That means you lose the midterms. And that likely means that you lose the 2028 presidential election. So a lot of these people like to get emotional and they're kind of in a cult of personality thing, and they can't actually look at just raw politics. But that's the truth. If you break this coalition, you will lose the midterms. You will. That's just raw politics. That's what the numbers bear out. And so that's why it's so important for Trump not to do it. And he has to ignore the voices that are begging him to, because we have a chance. I believe we have a chance to save our country politically. And it's like ripping off a Band-Aid that's been stuck on with Gorilla Glue for like 50 years. So, I mean, you know, it's not going to be fun and it's not going to be easy. So that's kind of what we're doing. And we can do it politically with this coalition. We can win elections. We can win multiple elections. We can get even better people in there than we have now. But you have to maintain this coalition in order to do so. If you blow it up with another regime change war, it's over. We're going to go right back to the pendulum going left and right and left and right. You're going to give Democrats power for at least 6 years, I would say. There'll be a 6-year hangover from this. And so this is why it's very important to maintain this MAGA coalition, because we have all the leverage. We're controlling the narrative. And, you know, it's funny, but it's a sign of the times. Israel could blow it all up.
Both figuratively and literally in that regard. So, and that's perfect. I mean, we could go on for a bunch more time, but we're right at the 30-minute mark. So I want to thank Owen Schroyer. Obviously, they know where they are, but if anybody doesn't know where they can find you, let them know where they can.
Best place is on X at Owen Schroyer 1776. You can get a link to my show, owenschroyer.show. And I do a little side hustle, if you will, on rumble.com/Owen.
All right. Well, we want to thank Owen Schroyer for joining us today. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us. God bless, and Viva Cristo Rey.